Hello, GRRA members. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We are hosting today a special edition of Real Talk, the official podcast of GRRA. And joining us today is our special guest, NC REALTORS CEO Andrea Bushnell, and as always, GRRA CEO Mike Barr, and 2025 GRRA President Mary Beth Powell. Andrea, welcome to GRRA today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
So, Andrea, in your role as NC REALTORS CEO, how have you seen the real estate industry grow and adapt to changes in North Carolina?
So I have been in North Carolina now for just under 15 years. From the time I arrived in North Carolina, the North Carolina Association of Realtors had 28,000 members. We now sit at just under 57,000 members in North Carolina. The growth of the industry has been absolutely tremendous. Now, understand that when I came, we were just at the tail end, maybe even middle of a recession. And so it was understandable that the membership was down pretty considerably. However, just seeing the growth and the number of people who have gotten in the industry is reflective, quite frankly, of the growth of the entire state. We've probably also gone from 7 million residents in North Carolina to being something close to 11 million residents. With that growth, of course, comes opportunity.
I know that there are so many things that we're dealing with now throughout our state, but what do you feel are key issues that NCR, what we're working on this year in 2025?
My last comment actually leads to the answer to this question, which is growth. And because there has been so much growth in North Carolina, we have found ourselves in a situation where housing is now a problem. When I moved here 15 years ago, housing was not a problem. There was ample housing, there was affordable housing, there was attainable housing. And now what we're finding is that it's very, very difficult to find appropriate housing for all. And so our main goal this year is to ensure that we have legislative and regulatory policies passed and in place that will allow us to develop the housing that we need to serve all of the people who are coming in. I think this is particularly true in the Greensboro area because of the 421 corridor, right? And all of the industry that's coming into that area. With that growth, what we have found is that there's a lack of housing in every demographic and every type of housing. So there's a lack of housing and lack of rental housing. There's a lack of single family housing. Every type of housing is needed. So our main and primary goal for this year is to create an environment where housing can be developed. So that could be new building, new housing. It could be conversion of existing buildings. It can be the conversion of underutilized commercial space into housing. It can be taking an old hotel and creating efficiency units, for example, for rent. So there's all kinds of ideas out there, but making them happen is hard because, quite frankly, some of our rules and regulations get in the way of easy development. So we have to work on that. And together, I think we'll get it done this year.
So, Andrea, when we talk about value, what impacts members the most that they may not know about?
So I think the one thing that our members probably don't know is how many bad policies and laws we actually stop. As many good ideas as we have, there are equally a number of really bad and harmful ideas that come forth as proposed legislation, for example. And so our members never see that. They never hear about it. They don't know about it. We just ensure that those bad laws never see the light of day. And we do it through our lobbying efforts. We do it through communications with our legislative and local elected officials. I think that that's the one thing. We are at work, at alert, at all times. Our chief lobbyist, Katie Thomas, says we pay her to be paranoid. And I think that there's some real truth to that because I want her to be looking at the downside of every single idea that comes forward. I hate to sound negative, but the truth is that we have to have someone looking at what are the unintended consequences of this particular piece of legislation or this regulation that is moving forward. If it's bad for the industry, if it's bad for consumers, which many times if it's bad for the industry, it is going to be bad for consumers, we need to make sure that it just doesn't ever see the light of day.
And I know we have helped with that effort when we go down on Legislative Day on April 9th this year. For any GRA members who want to attend, we're going to be leaving here at 7:30 in the morning to head down to the legislature and lobby for those issues that realtors want to get passed, and so, or to kill, I guess, does that matter? You can be part of that effort that Andrew's talking about, but that is something that they do every day, all the time. And, we get calls by the state legislative staff and ask us on what we think on different matters. And so our leadership and our legislative committee gets consulted, and we say our opinions. And so we do have a say because of their efforts. So we really appreciate that. And we know, because we hear too, what potentially could be coming, and it never shows up. And we're very thankful for that.
You make a really good point, Mike, because our elected officials really want to hear from their constituents. And they hear from us as an association every single day. And that's great and it's fine. And I think that we have developed true trust relationships with the elected officials. But at the end of the day, we don't necessarily vote in their districts, right? So they want to hear from you and all of your members, because ultimately, that's who they're responsible for, and that's who they answer to, both in their day-to-day communications with you, but also at the ballot box at the next election. They're responsible to their constituents, and so they need to hear from you. And so I would encourage all GRRA members to attend legislative days. First of all, it's fun and it's super interesting. Just see government at work, because many of us don't have that opportunity every day to see government at work. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us as citizens of this state to understand that. I think it's really, really important, because together, that's how we are best. When we divide and conquer, splitting issues and splitting on ideals for our association is not good. We have to come together. We have to speak as one voice. Encourage you all to come.
We will definitely be there. I look forward to it, and it just keeps us aware of the issues and the impact that we make. I always walk away from that feeling better about what all we do as an association, and as a state. Speaking of that, I know that that's one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing, that NCR does for us, that collaborative effort. What are some of the other things? Because I know that there are so many things that you guys do. We probably dodge bullets all the time of things we never even know about, and for that we're thankful. As a member, what are some of those other values for every member, whether they realize it or whether they don't? And then for that matter, property owners in North Carolina.
Let's talk about the members first. Like I have said before, if we are doing what's right for the industry and for our members, it's likely in the best interest of the consumer as well. But the number one service that the North Carolina Association of Realtors provides to its members are the standardized forms. And this is super important. In other states, they don't have a set of standardized forms. They might have 2 or 3 or 4 different forms that are used. And whenever you don't know what a form says, the likelihood of a mistake being made or your client not understanding what it is that they're agreeing to goes up. And so it's a great benefit to our members that we have standardized forms throughout the state. So everybody is used to them. They read them over and over again. They explain them to their clients on a daily basis. And I think that that is really good, not only for our members, but for the consumer as well. The other thing about the forms is that we have been very careful this year to ensure that our forms are responsive to the lawsuits that came against the National Association of Realtors and the impact that that has had on how we do business in North Carolina. Now, in North Carolina, we were lucky because you already had to have a buyer's agency agreement. Other states, that was not the case. And so perhaps some of the changes that occurred in the industry were less shocking to us because we were already doing some of the things that the lawsuit required us to do. You've seen a lot of forms changes this year. They've been coming out every couple of months, not once a year now. And it's because we had to be responsive and we had to be quick to act and make sure that our forms were going to be protective of our members as well as the consumer. When you see your form be diminished in size and the length going down, some of what our members considered protective language went away. But that's what the lawsuit demanded, because the lawsuit demanded full transparency with your customers and consumers. And at the end of the day, isn't that the right thing to do anyway?
And I appreciate the swift response to the forms because I know that we're used to getting them annually. But with all the changes going on, that's too long for us to make the changes. And then, of course, a lot of it, we were truly lucky to have those things in place already. It was a little easier talking to clients because we could wholeheartedly say that these things have been in place in North Carolina for a long time. It just took a little more explaining for the forms to be changed as we needed them changed because it was kind of uncharted. It helped us on our end, so we appreciate that.
So, and I guess, the other part of that, or kind of the next step to that, is whether our members use it or don't use it, they really should be using it, and that's the Legal Hotline, which is a service that is included in your membership dollars that you pay to us, and you can call our Legal Hotline and get legal advice. We don't represent people individually in their matters. However, we do provide information about and guidance about issues that are impacting the transaction, contract questions, things like that. The Legal Hotline went from getting about 10 calls in a 3-hour period a day to now they're fielding over 90 calls a day. It's really become quite a utilized and important service because as changes have been happening, as we've been all adjusting to the lawsuit and the ramifications, business ramifications, a lot of questions have arisen. And how do you use the new forms? And what does this form mean? And what's the 220? And how do I use it? And all of those kinds of things. If the members aren't using the Legal Hotline, it's open to everyone. You should really take advantage of it because it can keep you out of trouble. And quite frankly, it can help your customers and clients stay out of trouble as well.
That's one of the biggest things that we have. I mean, why not use it? That guidance is provided to us as a value from NCR rather than question all of these changes or try to come up with our own version of how to do it. It's kind of a no-brainer to give them a call because their guidance is to the point and it's correct. Mm-hmm. Rather than what people are hearing, on social media and other places. Go straight to the source and save yourself a lot of heartache.
Yeah, can we quit going out on social media with this stuff? Because I'm telling you, that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time doing is monitoring social media to make sure that there isn't misinformation being out there. And there's so much misinformation. People hear something, they share it. It's like the old telephone tree, right? And as the story goes, the story changes and you go from an innocent statement to something that is really quite harmful to the industry.
That perception becomes reality oftentimes, and it's false, and it's going to land people in a bad spot. So I think that's probably one of our number one values right now while we are still navigating through all of the changes.
Right, exactly. So if you see something that looks weird to you and you're not quite sure that the thing you just read on Facebook is accurate, call the Legal Hotline.
Absolutely.
Because they can help you navigate that.
And of course, the information that you put on the website for brokers and brokerages. You codified all the advice that was given over the years and put it up on the website, and it's a really good place for someone who owns a company to go and look at an issue and be able to find some resources 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is a true value to the membership. I know our members are using it, and we put it out in our blasts regularly. Just remind them, hey, this is there.
Right. The risk management toolkit took a good part of a year, actually, to compile and make sure that it is on the website, easily accessible, categorized by topic. And ultimately, we are working every day to update it to ensure that the information that is out there is the most current information and most accurate. And so thanks for reminding me about that. When you're not able to sleep on a Monday night at 1 a.m. or something like that, you can go and maybe find your answer and help you navigate that through to the next day.
Great. So, Andrea, what advice would you give to a newer member who's, I always say 5 years or less, right? Mm-hmm. Because they finally got their feet wet, to get involved with the state association and the value that will bring to them?
So I would say for newer members, if you haven't been involved, then you don't know what you're missing. When you have been scrambling to get your business up and running and learning how to use the forms and learning how to navigate the MLS and learning from your broker, all of the things that you need to learn to be in compliance with your broker's business model. The one thing that perhaps you're not being exposed to is the networking that we have available to you. And so if you're serving on a committee, and that's a great way to start, is to put your name in for a committee. And those applications will be coming out in May, and you'll have about 2 months to put an application in for a committee. But it's a great way to meet people from all across the state. And it is a really great way to develop your referral network, which I think is really important. And so between that or applying for the Leadership Academy, that's a great way to come together with a group of like-minded people who are just coming up in the industry, to learn from them, to create those bonds. And what we see are lifetime friendships that come out of that particular program. The other thing that I think a newer member should consider is we do have a mentor-mentee program for our convention. You can get a scholarship to come to our convention and be paired with a member who has been involved for a long time. Oftentimes they're past presidents or there's somebody who's been a committee chair, and they can help you not only navigate the convention as perhaps a first-time attendee, but also to help you introduce you and to start making sure that you are making those connections with people across the state who can become part of your referral network, because it's all about ensuring that your business is thriving and hopefully profitable. And so what better way than to ensure that you have a good pipeline of business coming from other members who you may not even know are out there right now. That's my biggest recommendation for a newer member.
And not even just newer members, but I can attest to some of the conventions, the North Carolina Convention, and then some of our state meetings throughout. I was a little intimidated at first at the thought of joining a committee at the NC level. I think it was Sophia that encouraged me to just go sit in. I thought if I opened the door and I wasn't a part of that committee that I would get booted out or something like that. So that's not the case at all. Everybody was so welcoming. I kind of went and sat in on committees, the ones that we can apply for. I was able to get a better understanding of what those committees did than I applied based off of what kind of resonated with me. So I encourage people to sit in, because by the names, sometimes you may not know exactly what they're covering. And so it helps to kind of go in and sit and understand and go, okay, that clicks with me. I'd really like to help in that area, and encourage people to apply. On the other note, the conventions are also a good place, not necessarily even within my company or my franchise, but across the state. I have referral partners that I've met throughout the years, and I feel so confident in pretty much every part of North Carolina. Oh, it's that town, I'm going to call this person, or this town, I'm going to call that person, because they're relationships that I've built over the years just by going to these places. Or if I just have a general question in those areas, those relationships have been solely based off of the conventions.
That's great to know, actually. You know, we don't get a huge attendance at our conventions, but we have a lot of members who have a lot of demands on their time. That makes me happy to hear. So thank you.
You know, because it's hard to take time out of our schedules, but it's worth the time. The classes are great. And then, like you said, the networking in between probably is even a bigger benefit.
And so this year's convention's at Cherokee, and it'll be October. So if we have the leaves,
prime leaf season,
yeah,
it's
leaves,
time to go.
Yeah. So anyway, it could be an opportunity for a lot of folks to actually attend this year's convention, because I think the price point is there.
Price point is there. The drive is, I know it's long, but it's beautiful. Yes. And once you get there, it will be prime leaf season. It should be a great event. Plus, you know, you get a lot of education, too.
Because we're doing the podcast today, we have such a close relationship with NCR. But I wanted your thoughts on what you would like members to think about when they think about NCR, and especially the relationship between our local associations plus NCR.
So I think my goal has always been that people look at the North Carolina Realtors as their partner. We are there to help each other, to support each other, that we come together for the best interests of our members, but also come together for the best interests of the consumers in North Carolina. Maybe it sounds trite, but we really are a service organization. That's what we do. It's why we exist. We don't do anything unless we can draw a straight line to service to our members and, quite frankly, to our local associations. Because without our local associations, we cannot do what we do. Without Mike Barr sitting as CEO of GRRA.
Without Mike Barr.
Exactly.
So kind.
Honestly.
But it's really true. We can't be successful unless we have a good partnership with our local associations, and it all comes down to being able to pick up the phone and call Mike, and have Mike feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling me, because that's how we solve problems every day, problems that our members don't need to hear about and don't need to know about because they have their own issues to resolve. And what I really want people to know about us is that we're here for you. We're here to be your partner. We're here to be your consultant when we need to be, and here to help you be the best realtor you can be.
I've always found everybody at NCR to be so accessible and friendly and willing to talk. You know, there's a misconception as well that we're not supposed to go directly to anybody at NCR. And working with and learning more about the different people, we've got such value in the people that are at NCR. It's just an easy conversation anytime that I've had a question about something. It's a great value to have.
Thank you. Our staff is they're really quite wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any gatekeepers, right?
Yeah.
So you can go straight to the person you need to go to get the answer you need in as quick and a convenient a manner as possible.
I agree.
So, Andrea, any final thoughts for our GRA listening audience?
So, final thoughts. Keep the faith. You know, it's been a really, really, really tough last 12 months or so, maybe even last 18 months. But we're coming out of this. We're coming out the other side. We are still here. We're still operating. We're still strong. We're still able to achieve our advocacy and regulatory goals. Yeah, there have been some changes, and I know for some people it's been hard to figure out how to navigate the changes, for example, to the MLS. But our members are doing it. Our members are creative and they are tenacious. And what I see is a lot of hope for the future. So stay the course, stay in business, just get it done. And we're here to help you all along the way.
Excellent. First off, Mike and Mary Beth, thank you as always for joining me and helping produce today's edition of Real Talk. Also, Andrea, thank you so much. I know you are a very busy person, trying to help make sure NC Realtors and all our local associations are running, but we greatly appreciate you sacrificing time today to join us on the microphone. So, members, as you heard Mike say, you can listen to Real Talk on our YouTube channel. Also, as Mike said too, make sure to join us for NC Realtors Legislative Day on Wednesday, April 9th. Be here at 7:30. You can sign up at member.gra.org/event calendar. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll come to you live in April for another edition of Real Talk.